Right, it's a Sunday afternoon. I think we're somewhere around the 27th. My dearest darling is still away over in Bridlington, set to return tomorrow at some point. My last day with the cat away, so I thought I'd have a ramble. Neighbours are sick to death of just hearing me talking to myself, so I might as well be talking to you guys. Hope there's enough light for this. I hope the volume levels are sound. But here we go. So yeah, I do like roaming down the path least travelled, but it is becoming troubling with the whole COVID thing. Obviously on my timeline there's lots of nutters, nutters, absolute nutters, and I don't wish to migrate down that pathway, but the more I read up on the harms that COVID is capable of, the more that I think it's incredibly unlikely that this coronavirus is something that came out of nature. You need to bear in mind that 3 of the components making up 3/4 of the common cold are coronaviruses, and that apart from in the very old and infirm, they really don't cause too many problems apart from a snotty nose, and then you throw it and over it. Whereas this bastard and its younger incarnation, SARS-CoV-1, SARS, which again was something that travelled out of China and managed to find itself in an international airport hub, and so then we had the spread that we had. No, I'm just straining at it. We've had the FBI sat in front of full, swearing under oath in front of the Senate, telling us that it cannot, in all honesty, discount the fact that it was a manufactured entity, that it was the common cold with little Easter eggs added in. One of the first things that came to light was that it was acting very much like rabies, in that your prefrontal cortex is where it's going to make a beeline for, and so your risk assessment capabilities are eroded, so you take more stupid risks, just like animals riddled with rabies do. They always say if you're in a rabid country, if a wild animal approaches her like a friend, it's probably got rabies, because that bit of its fucking noggin has been eaten away by the virus. But then we discover that it's acting very much like measles and gives people immunity amnesia. When you've had it, all those immunities that you built up over your childhood, all those childhood nasties, the slate's wiped clean. You come away with an immunity to the COVID virus, and that alone, and that variant. So the next one, which is always more efficient at avoiding, it's not right, is it? And then you find that it can sit within your cells, dormant, just like chickenpox. It's not bringing shingles when it re-emerges, it's doing far worse than that. And then you've got its propensity to drive immune-acquired deficiency syndrome, but you'll probably know that by its acronym. But I've been through 3 papers that show a direct causal link between a COVID infection and acquired immunity deficiency syndrome outcome. So why is this wild thing coming from a pangolin, coming from a bat, coming from why has it got all these dialed in harms? Almost as if it was programmed to do the maximum harm. And then why do people act like it's nothing? Why have world governments so played it down that to wear a mask is to mark you out as a freak? I'm hit by swine flu December 10th, 2010. In the August, it killed my father. By the February 2011, it had killed my son, and it left me with post-viral syndrome, which in the early days I'd describe as having flu without the snot. And so all of that bedridden side of it, all the pain, the aches, the mind, brain fogs, all of that, yeah, everything barring the snot, is what you're left with. And for the past nigh on decade and a half now, when I've been trying to understand what's happened to me, I tend to go back to the numbskulls. I don't know whether it was the Beano or Whizzer and Chips or whatever, but there was a cartoon of the numbskulls, all the people living inside your head, some in charge of the eyes, some in charge of the mouth, some in charge of it. And it's as though something got into that control room. And why have you gone dark? Something got into the control room and stuffed a fucking spanner in some of the workings. Your own body tries to fight off virus attacks, and one of its methodologies is to increase your body temperature to try and burn the blugger out. That involves a certain amount of inflammation, so all your joints get really achy, all your muscles get really achy, and you know, this is my day-to-day living, and has been for this nigh on decade and a half. When I started reading in January 2020 about the long COVID harms of predominantly the doctors that were dealing with the cases in Wuhan, there were just so many similarities to my own lived experience that I had to take it very serious, and I didn't want to double down on the harms that are already inside me, so I took COVID very seriously. Luckily, in the same month, I came across an American virologist who has been working since the late 60s in the field, and so has dealt with everything, whatever. But he has this detox regime on returning home to his family and children. The first being in the porch where he strips off every item of clothing, and then to the shower. But he also uses an antiviral tincture for where you swab up your nose, get in there, and high alcohol mouthwash to gargle on your throat. So anywhere a virus might be setting up home, you attack it, knock it back. Basically, you buy your own immune system the time to muster itself so that it can fight it off. And I believe that this is how I find myself novid now, because we've had COVID in the house, COVID in the family, but never tested positive. Combination of masking, clever masking, and this regime. And obviously when COVID's around, then every couple of hours you're going through the regime. You're attacking the virus that is attacking you, so that it can't get a foothold, so that it can't overwhelm your own immune system, can't overwhelm you. I believe now that we're at the time, the low-hanging fruit has long gone, hastened by those bastards in government flooding the care homes, you know, in the early days. But the people that have other health concerns, many of those are now gone. And there's kind of a little lull. Well, you might not have noticed this because you might know family friends that have succumbed to COVID damages. But basically, of late, I've come to see it as a COVID Jenga tower. Yeah, and so before it, the tower was complete, but every infection, you pull out a block. And depending where that block is pulled out, depends how badly you're hit. as in those people that now know somebody that is having struggles with what would be associated with COVID infection, be it heart, respiratory, brain fog, organ failure, or the whole gamut. But they're also people who are not taking care of themselves, and every so often are pulling another piece of the Jenga COVID tower out. And so I believe over the next 2 cold and flu seasons, a lot of these erstwhile young and fit individuals that were told that they were safe, that for them it was nothing more than a minor cold, will find themselves facing major health concerns. Turbo cancers, heart attack, stroke, organ failure, mental issues, brain fog and worse. So I'd say be mindful of this. I'm 62 and a half now, getting on for. So for me to find myself in the kitchen thinking, what the fuck am I here for, is part of the territory of aging. If you're 30 or 40, not so much. I didn't have those issues. Not until swine flu, H1N1, took a bite. And that is something, because it's cognitive, that you notice. You don't notice the redundancy in your liver being burned away, your redundancy in your kidneys, your redundancy in your gastrointestinal system, until it starts to go critical, and then you notice. But the slightest thing goes on in your noggin, and yeah, it's frightening. You notice it. And this will probably be the entrance that many people with COVID harms will recognise first, is that they can't remember words, they don't know what they're doing, they've forgotten, they're halfway through a task and are totally blank on it. They can't remember the names of their fucking children, you know, momentarily. I'd say mask up, but it won't make a difference, will it? None of you will. Many of you are just about to go into a metal tube with 300 other people and breathe their air for 3 hours, and then repeat that in 2 weeks' time coming back. And you won't think for a moment about that. Presently, Spain has the highest COVID infection that it's had, not since last winter, since the winter before. So people are flying into areas where it is rife. But no, they've been assured that it's a nothing, and anyone that's still going on about COVID, yeah, well, as I say, I think the next 2 winters we will start to see the next load of people disappear from the accrued harms. Because don't forget, COVID's harms build up. You don't have one deal with it and then wait for the next one. They build upon one another. If it's attacking your brain, then the next infection will go at the bits that are still untouched. If it's your heart, the same as. It's cumulative. So how close are you to your golden shot? Anyway, happy days. I'll get back to the drinking, you get back to your Sunday, and I'll talk with you again, I'm absolutely sure. Be well, eh?